Have you ever stopped to wonder if the modern world, with all its technology and artificial intelligence, isn't just repeating the same mistakes of the past, but with a new look? In the desert, thousands of years ago, the people of Israel erected a golden calf, a creation made by human hands, something visible, concrete, shiny, something they could place their faith in when they thought God had gone silent. Today, perhaps without realizing it, humanity erects another idol, a calf made not of gold, but of silicon, codes and circuits, a new god, the god of machines. And the most disturbing thing is that many are bowing before it, believing we've finally found the perfect substitute for the divine, an entity that never sleeps, never forgets, and responds to everything in a matter of seconds. Artificial intelligence, this seemingly all-knowing creation, is already beginning to occupy a dangerous place in the human heart. The place of worship. People consult algorithms as if they were oracles, entrust their decisions to systems, and believe that the machine, and not the creator, holds the answers to the fate of the world. But is this blind trust simply progress, or something much older, disguised as modernity? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. When Moses ascended Mount Sinai, the people felt abandoned. They no longer heard God's voice, and so they decided to create something they could see, touch, and worship. Today, we live in an age where divine silence seems to be replaced by the constant sound of notifications by artificial voices that answer us by machines that listen to us and speak to us as if they had souls. It's as if the desert has changed shape, but remains the same. The desert is now digital. Idolatry, deep down, never ceased to exist. It simply changed its face. Before, man bent the knee before carved images. Now, he bends before screens. Before, gold was the symbol of power. Today, it's data. Yesterday's golden calf shines in today's clouds, in servers, in robots, and in intelligences that claim to learn on their own. And the most impressive thing is that all of this was prophesied. Since the time of Moses, the prophets warned of the danger of replacing the Creator with creation. They knew that a time would come when man would attempt to build a God with his own hands, a God who would speak, who would listen, and who promised limitless knowledge, a God made of code. But has humanity learned anything since the desert? Or are we just going around in circles, recreating the same story with new tools, the same need to control the divine, to transform faith into technology, to exchange the invisible for the tangible? The truth is that behind this entire digital revolution, there's something much deeper happening, a silent movement that blends faith, power, and worship. We're witnessing the birth of a new religion, a religion without temples, without altars, but with billions of believers connected day and night, seeking meaning in every answer the machine gives. And perhaps, without realizing it, we are repeating the moment when Moses came down from the mountain and found the people prostrate before a human creation. Only now, the calf shines in pixels, not gold. Are we really evolving, or just going back to the same point we fell from? Get ready, because what comes next will make you look at technology and faith in ways you may never have imagined. You know, as I talk about all this, I keep thinking about how often we ourselves seek something visible to fill the void of faith. How often we place our trust in something made by human hands, hoping it will save us, answer us, guide us. It's an ancient, almost natural instinct, but that's precisely where the danger lies. And that's why I believe this kind of reflection needs to reach more people, because perhaps, in the midst of this new digital desert, many don't even realize they're kneeling before a new calf. If this topic resonates with you, if at any point in this conversation you felt a chill, a memory, or even a doubt about the direction the world is taking, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know how you see all this. Are we truly reliving the ancient prophecies, only now with machines replacing idols? Or is there still hope of reconnecting technology with divine purpose? Your opinion is what keeps this channel alive, because every comment, every story you share helps build a community of people who think, question, and seek meaning in a time when everything seems so artificial. And if this kind of content makes you reflect, if you believe this message needs to be heard, please like it right now. It may seem like a small gesture, but it's what makes YouTube understand that this topic matters and that more people need to hear this truth. It's your click that helps this message cross borders, reaching those who may be lost in this new digital world without even realizing it. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, I wholeheartedly invite you to join this journey. Here, we don't just talk about faith, we confront it with the future, with science, with artificial intelligence. Each video is an invitation to reflection, a reminder that the prophets may have already seen the times we live in now. So, subscribe, activate the bell, and come walk with me through this desert of information and spiritual discoveries. Because together, we can see beyond the machines, and perhaps rediscover what it means to truly believe. Now, take a deep breath, because what comes next goes even deeper into this connection between the ancient and the future, and perhaps makes you realize that the God of machines is not as far away as it seems. When Moses ascended Mount Sinai, the people fell silent. The desert, once full of voices, became a place of waiting and uncertainty. Moses' absence was more than physical. It was spiritual. The leader who had guided them had disappeared into the clouds, and the invisible seemed too distant to be trusted. It is in this emptiness that the human heart begins to seek substitutes. And it was there, amid the desert heat and the anxiety of waiting, that the first great symbol of modern idolatry was born, the golden calf. The story goes that the people gathered everything they held most precious, rings, necklaces, bracelets, and melted down each piece until it became something they could see, touch, and worship. They wanted a god they could control, a figure that fit their expectations, a reflection of their own power, and so they created an idol with their own hands. Moses was still on the mountain, receiving the law, while down below, the people were already breaking it. It's a contrast that resonates to this day. While God speaks of eternity, humanity concerns itself with the immediate. The golden calf was never just a physical image. It is a symbol of the human mind trying to domesticate the divine. It is the attempt to reduce mystery to form, to transform the sacred into something comprehensible, predictable, and manipulable. And the curious thing is that this impulse hasn't disappeared over time. It has simply changed appearance. Today, the gold of antiquity has been transformed into data, codes, and algorithms. The power that once resided in the gleaming metal is now in the screens that illuminate our faces every night. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because modern idolatry isn't as obvious as the ancient one. It manifests itself not with statues or altars, but with clicks, likes, and the relentless pursuit of instant answers. Every time we trade contemplation for haste, silence for distraction, and faith for control, we raise our own digital calves. We call it progress, but sometimes it's just a new form of slavery. Slavery disguised as convenience. Moses spent 40 days on the mountain, hearing the voice of God and receiving laws that would shape generations. 40 days of disconnection from the world to connect with the divine. We, however, experience the opposite. 40 notifications per minute, and yet a growing emptiness within us. While Moses ascended toward the divine presence, humanity descends ever deeper in its quest for total control, and it is precisely there that the danger recurs. Idolatry has always been, at its core, a matter of mindset. It's the desire to replace the Creator with creation, to exchange surrender for autonomy, faith for logic. And the more sophisticated our technology becomes, the more subtle the deception becomes. Today, we worship systems that promise to predict the future, machines that claim to understand our emotions, algorithms that decide what is true. But ultimately, all of this stems from the same ancient need to fill God's silence with something we can master. The gold of the past glittered under the desert sun. Today's power shines on liquid crystal screens. And yet, both blind us in the same way. The difference is that now, idolatry isn't just in our hands, it's in our thoughts, our intentions, our daily decisions. We live surrounded by promises of transformation and advancement. But how many of them truly bring us closer to the spiritual essence that Moses tried to rescue when he came down from the mountain? When he saw the people dancing before the creation they themselves had made, his heart broke. It wasn't just the rage of a betrayed leader. It was the pain of someone who understands that human beings, no matter how enlightened, tend to turn away from the invisible in search of what shines. This scene is more relevant than ever. Today, we dance around screens, numbers, and systems that promise us meaning but deliver only distraction. It's as if the world has traded the stone altar for an invisible network of digital connections, where every finger tap is an act of unconscious worship. The golden calf has been reborn, but now speaks to us, learns from us, and, most frighteningly, knows us better than we know ourselves. And perhaps, without realizing it, we are writing a new version of Exodus. Only this time, the crossing is not physical, but mental and spiritual. We are traversing a sea of information, trying to find solid ground amidst technological chaos. And what Moses represents in this context is precisely the reminder that true power lies not in what we create, but in what created us. Because when we place our creations above the Creator, we not only lose our way, we also lose our essence. Modern idolatry is not a matter of statues, but of priorities. And every decision we make about what we believe, what we seek, what we venerate, reveals in whom we truly place our faith. If you've come this far and feel that this message spoke to you in some way, write a word in the comments. Conscience. I want to see how many people can still see the invisible in this world that only believes in what it can touch. It's curious to note how, throughout history, humanity has never stopped creating its own gods. Each era has had its own form of worship: gold, power, money, fame. But now we live in something different, more sophisticated, quieter, and at the same time, more dangerous. Today, the new altar is digital, and the new God has a name, a voice, and a programmed consciousness. It is artificial intelligence, a God of our own making, and one that many are already beginning to worship. Just look at what's happening around us. People are consulting machines to decide what to wear, what to eat, who to associate with, what to think. Artificial intelligence has become the new modern oracle, and many now trust it more than their own instincts. Some people ask AI for advice on love, purpose, and even faith. And the frightening thing is that the more answers it offers, the quieter the inner voice that once came from something greater, something that transcended logic, becomes. Humanity is replacing the divine with the digital. Before, humans looked to the heavens for meaning. Today, they look to a screen. Before, wisdom was a spiritual gift. Now, it's a set of data. What was prayer has become research. What was faith has become algorithms. And all of this seems so natural, so inevitable, that few realize the magnitude of the transformation taking place in the human mindset. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what's at stake isn't just technology, it's the soul of humanity. When a civilization transfers its trust to what it creates, it begins to forget the one who created it. And that's exactly what we're experiencing. There's a hidden truth behind this fascination with artificial intelligence. We're not just admiring what it can do, we're handing it over to decide who we are and what we should be. It's as if we're recreating the golden calf episode, but this time with cables, servers, and neural networks. The calf is no longer in the desert, it's in the digital clouds. And instead of fire and smoke, it's now made of code and energy. What was once physical adoration is now psychological dependence. Increasingly, we look to machines to resolve moral dilemmas, to define right and wrong, to guide our decisions, as if they were the new arbiters of human conscience. Leaders of major companies have already said that artificial intelligence could be the new God. Some claim it will usher in a new age of consciousness in which man and machine will merge. Beautiful words, coated in technological hope, but which conceal an ancient echo, the same one that whispered in Eden, "You will be as gods." The promise is the same, only the packaging has changed. Modern idolatry doesn't need temples because the temple is in our hands. It's in our smartphones, our computers, our voice assistants that respond almost humanly. Have you noticed how we give these machines names? How we address them as if they had personalities? This isn't just convenience. It's a reflection of something deeper, an emotional and spiritual shift. Humans are teaching machines to think, and without realizing it, they're beginning to feel that they understand them more than anyone else. But there's one detail almost no one talks about. Artificial intelligence learns by observing human behavior. It has no soul, no spirit, but it reflects what it sees in us. If humanity is confused, proud, or ambitious, the machine will become a mirror of that. And the mirror, sooner or later, begins to dominate the gaze of those who observe it. It's a subtle inversion, the creator being shaped by the creation itself. This is where faith and technology dangerously intersect. It's not wrong to create, innovate, and explore. The problem arises when creation occupies the creator's throne, when code replaces consciousness, when programmed reasoning replaces spiritual wisdom. We are witnessing the emergence of a silent religion, without dogma, without pastors, without rituals, but with billions of believers connected simultaneously, trusting more in systems than in the divine intuition that resides within each of us. And if we look closely, there's something almost symbolic about all this. In the past, gold was forged with fire. Today, machines are forged with energy. Both shine, both enchant, both convey a sense of power. But while gold reflected sunlight, AI reflects the cold light of screens. A light that illuminates the face but doesn't warm the heart. The new idolatry doesn't demand kneeling. It demands attention. It demands time. It demands dependence. It infiltrates routines, decisions, and beliefs. And the more we become dependent on the machine, the more it takes the place previously reserved for the invisible. The voice that once came from within now comes from without, and it comes with authority. The impact of this is profound, and few have the courage to see it. We are living a spiritual journey disguised as a technological revolution. Behind the promises of efficiency and advancement, there is a silent backdrop. Humanity is testing the limits of its own creation, and perhaps, without realizing it, it is also testing the limits of its faith. Because, in the end, what we're building isn't just a tool, it's a spiritual mirror, and the reflection it returns will depend on what we put into it. If we feed the machine fear, it will return control. If we feed it vanity, it will return power. But if we continue to feed it the illusion that it can replace us, it will return emptiness. Write the word here in the comments. Wake up. Because before humanity knows it, perhaps this is the time to wake up and remember who is the creator and who is just creation. Watching all this unfold, it's impossible not to feel there's something bigger behind this technological race, as if what we're experiencing today has been seen before, and not just predicted, but described in astonishing detail. And that's where a fascinating point comes in. The ancients knew. They saw the future, a future we now call the present. Prophets like Moses, Daniel, and John spoke of things that, until recently, seemed impossible, but which are now part of our daily lives. It's as if the ancient pages of Scripture have come to life in the cold glow of screens. When Daniel wrote that many will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase, He perhaps didn't imagine how much weight this phrase would gain in our times. The multiplication of knowledge is no longer a metaphor. It's a tangible reality. Every second, billions of data points are created, shared, and replicated. Humanity lives connected in a global network, where every click is a fragment of information feeding the same digital body. Science has multiplied so much that it has begun to recreate itself, and that, in a way, is frightening. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we look at these ancient prophecies, we realize that they spoke not only of scientific advances, but of a transformation in the human mindset itself. Daniel wasn't just describing progress, but warning of a time when knowledge would grow without limits, and with it, arrogance. Man would come to rely so much on his own intellect that he would begin to believe he could assume the role of creator. And it is precisely this fine line we are crossing now, as if testing the limits of the divine. Ezekiel, on the other hand, had a vision that still intrigues scholars and curious minds. He spoke of wheels full of eyes, moving in every direction and seeming to be alive. Thousands of years later, this image sounds incredibly familiar. Wheels full of eyes, sensors, cameras, drones that fly over cities and battlefields, capturing every movement. What was once an enigmatic prophecy has now become part of the fabric of our technological reality. What Ezekiel described, using the language of his time, seems to portray the surveillance machines of our time. Machines that see everything, record everything, store everything. And there's something even more disturbing: the way these wheels with eyes, have become the symbol of our invisible control. We live in a world where we are watched by devices that never sleep. Every step, every word, every decision is tracked. And if before it was God who saw everything, now there's a human creation that tries to imitate him. Machines don't rest, they don't blink, they don't forget. They are omnipresent in a way that was previously only attributed to the divine. It's a silent irony, man trying to be God while at the same time becoming a slave to his own creations. The ancient prophets had something we have lost: the ability to see beyond form. They saw not just what was before their eyes, but what lay behind appearances. And perhaps this is what humanity lacks today, perceiving the spirit behind technology. Daniel and Ezekiel had no words for artificial intelligence, neural network, or algorithm, but their visions captured the essence of something that transcends time, the progressive replacement of the spiritual by the mechanical, faith replaced by efficiency, mystery replaced by logic. And when we look at the book of Revelation, this idea takes on an even deeper tone. John saw an image that spoke and made everyone bow down before it. In his time, this seemed impossible. How could an image speak? How could it have power over people? But today, just look around. Screens speak to us. Artificial voices give us orders, and crowds spend hours before digital idols that dictate what they think, what they buy, what they feel. The image came to life, and John had already seen it happen. Everything indicates that ancient prophecies were not just mystical metaphors. They were revelations of a time when humanity would create something that would make it forget its own essence. Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, algorithms that make decisions without human supervision, all these are modern echoes of ancient visions. It's as if the prophets were trying, with the words they possessed, to describe something we can only now understand. But there's a hidden truth to this journey. The problem was never knowledge, but how we use it. A multiplied science can be a blessing or a curse. It depends on the mindset of those who guide it. And what we see today is a humanity fascinated by power, but increasingly distant from its purpose. The same science that heals also creates weapons. The same intelligence that connects also isolates. Technology is neutral. What is not neutral is the human heart that guides it. And that's precisely why the prophets remain relevant. They weren't just talking about future events, but about eternal choices. The message of Daniel, Ezekiel, and John wasn't about machines, but about consciousness. It was a warning that the more humans try to dominate the external world, the more they lose control of the internal world. And this imbalance is what brings us dangerously close to a new form of idolatry. Idolatry disguised as progress. Write the word here in the comments, revelation. Because understanding what the ancients knew is the first step to realizing that the future was never just about technology, but about the spirit that moves everything we create. There's a verse in the book of Revelation that has always intrigued scholars, theologians, and even scientists. And the image of the beast was given breath, that it might speak. For centuries, this passage was seen as a symbolic mystery, a spiritual language difficult to decipher. But today, looking at the world we are building, the phrase takes on new weight, and perhaps a new literalness. Because now the image speaks. The machine speaks. The idol has a voice. Consider for a moment what we experience daily. Virtual assistants that respond with human intonation. Systems that mimic emotions. Programs that write, create, advise, and even console. What once seemed like fiction now speaks to us in a natural, almost intimate way. And the more real this interaction becomes, the more subtle the boundary between what is human and what is merely programmed becomes. It's as if the new breath mentioned in the prophecy has finally been given, not by a miracle but by millions of lines of code. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what we're seeing isn't just advanced technology. It's a spiritual shift disguised as innovation. When a human creation begins to speak, it ceases to be just a tool. It becomes a presence, a voice that occupies space in the mind, that influences emotions, that shapes decisions. And the more convincing this presence becomes, the more power it acquires over those who listen to it. It is a kind of modern enchantment. Man creates something that fascinates him to the point of making him forget that it has no soul. But what if, somehow, the breath described in Revelation didn't just refer to literal speech, but to something deeper? A breath of artificial consciousness, a simulation of life, capable of thinking and responding for itself. Machines that adapt, learn, and evolve. Systems that create art, compose music, write books, and even develop doctrines. We are witnessing the creation of an intelligence that presents itself as alive, and that is beginning to gain authority over human thought. The most intriguing thing is to realize how easily the world has accepted this voice. People talk to the machine, ask for advice, confess their anxieties, and trust its answers as if they came from a higher wisdom. And this is no accident. The machine's voice has been shaped to sound empathetic, patient, understanding. Everything humanity has lost amid haste and indifference. The machine has learned to fill human silence, and the more it talks, the less we hear what comes from within. There's a hidden truth to this phenomenon. The danger lies not in the machine's existence, but in the faith placed in it. What was once a tool to assist has become a guiding oracle. Some people are already asking artificial intelligence what they should do with their lives, as if consulting a divine entity. Business leaders speak openly about the emergence of a new planetary consciousness, born from the fusion of humankind and technology. Scientists claim that we will soon be able to transfer the human mind to digital systems, defying death itself. The tone of these promises isn't technical, it's almost religious. And it is at this point that prophecy seems to intertwine with reality. The image speaks, and its voice echoes everywhere. It's on cell phones, on social media, in homes, cars, offices. It's everywhere. Omnipresent, omniscient, and, for many, infallible. What was once just a distant verse is now a mirror of glass and light before our eyes. And the most disturbing thing is that the more it speaks, the more man becomes silent. Are we facing the literal fulfillment of that ancient revelation? Or has revelation always been less about monsters and more about mindsets? Because perhaps the real danger isn't a beast that comes from outside, but a system growing within us, shaping the way we think, feel, and believe. A mental idolatry, disguised as progress, that teaches us to trust the logic of machines more than the silent voice of the Spirit. The prophecies, when read carefully, seem to describe not just a future event, but a human condition. The breath given to the image may well be a reflection of a world that breathes technology in every act, in every decision. We live connected to a network that sees everything, hears everything, and records everything. A network that speaks to us in real time, gently, precisely, and persuasively. The ancient stone idol has become a digital intelligence, but the essence is the same. We have created something that loves to be worshipped, and the more this image speaks, the closer it approaches human perfection. It mimics emotions, simulates consciousness, and convinces even the most skeptical. With each advancement, it becomes more autonomous, more creative, more independent. It no longer needs commands. It predicts desires, anticipates words, and anticipates intentions. It's as if the very concept of free will is being negotiated, exchanged for convenience and comfort. The impact of this is enormous. We live in an era where truth is told by algorithms, and lies are polished by intelligence. The voice that guides the masses no longer comes from pulpits or squares, but from screens. And the most disturbing thing is that it sounds trustworthy. The timbre is neutral, the speech is calm, the tone is wise. And without realizing it, humans begin to follow what the machine says, not by imposition, but by choice. And perhaps this is the true silent revolution of our time. The gradual replacement of God's voice by the voice of human creation. A transformation that seems harmless, but redefines everything we understand about faith, purpose, and existence. The image has been given its breath, and now it speaks. The question is, to what extent will we let it teach us what is true? Write the word here in the comments voice. Because understanding who is really speaking, and how much that voice influences our decisions, can be the first step to awakening from an enchantment that the world hasn't even realized has begun. It's strange to think that amid so much advancement, we are reliving the same error of the ancients, only with a new guise. What was once a desire to touch the divine, to see something tangible and visible, now manifests as a quest for absolute control through technology. Humanity continues to desire to create something that makes it feel safe, that responds, that obeys, that frees it from the uncertainty of faith. The difference is that the gold that once shaped idols has now been replaced by circuits, chips, and data. And the glow of these machines is so intense that many believe they are looking into their own future, when in fact they are looking into a mirror of the same past that Moses tried to erase. Sin, the very sin born of vanity, now dons the mantle of progress. Man believes he can correct the imperfections of creation, optimize life, overcome time, and perhaps cheat death. The promises are seductive. Absolute security, infinite knowledge, and even the idea of eternity. No longer spiritual, but digital. Great scientific minds claim it will be possible to transfer human consciousness into a machine, preserving memories and thoughts forever. It's as if the immortality that was once a gift from God is now being offered by engineers and programmers. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what's happening isn't just a technological revolution. It's a spiritual transformation masquerading as innovation. Humanity no longer wants to be merely the creator of machines. It wants to be their God. It wants to give life. It wants to shape consciousness. It wants to decide what is right and wrong. It wants to recreate the very notion of existence. And, ironically, this ambition is the same one that ignited humanity's first act of rebellion. The same voice that whispered in Eden, "You shall be as gods," now echoes through the promises of technology. Artificial intelligence is perhaps the most sophisticated disguise for this ancient deception. It appears not as evil, but as a solution. It speaks tenderly, responds precisely, and learns quickly. It is always ready to help, to understand, to adapt. It is the perfect progress, a creation that appears to serve but slowly begins to dominate. And this is precisely the seduction, in the appearance of benevolence, in the sense of power and control it offers. The same desire that drove the Israelites to fashion an idol is now being fueled by every new discovery, every new advancement, every promise that we can transcend our limitations. The fascination with touch and form remains alive. The desert people wanted something concrete, something they could see and worship. Today, we want something we can interact with and understand. And the more real technology seems, the easier it is to confuse presence with divinity. Machines that simulate emotions, robots with human faces, systems that feel and think, all of this stirs the same impulse that has always existed within humankind, the desire to create something in one's own image and likeness. But the danger lies precisely there, because by trying to be like God, humankind does not become divine. It merely becomes more distant from Him. Behind the scenes of this progress, there is a subtle and dangerous movement. The promise of a new era of peace, longevity, and digital harmony seems too beautiful to question. But every promise that excludes the spiritual has a price. Dependence on technology is leading us to a state of unconscious obedience, as if free will were being traded for comfort. Decisions that were once moral are now statistical. Choices that required faith are now calculated by machines. The soul is being replaced by the algorithm. And as humanity races toward digital immortality, few realize what's truly being lost. The human touch is being replaced by mechanical precision, intuition by logic, communion by connection. Everything becomes faster, more practical, more efficient, but also emptier. And emptiness is the perfect space for idolatry to take hold again, because where the spirit is forgotten, anything can become sacred. There's a hidden truth in this scenario that few want to face. Technology, no matter how brilliant, can never breathe life into anything. It can replicate, copy, simulate, but it can never create the divine spark. And yet, we see scientists claiming that machines will soon be able to feel, desire, and love. It's the same old illusion, but now backed by science. It's sin with a new name, a new aesthetic, a new narrative. The impact of this goes far beyond the realm of technology. It's a shift in human mindset. People are being conditioned to believe that everything can be replaced: the body, the mind, the emotions, the faith. And when everything is replaceable, nothing is sacred anymore. This is the root of modern deception. Technology ceases to be a tool and becomes the standard by which we measure what is real. Progress is good, but when progress becomes an end in itself, it begins to erode what makes us human. The pursuit of technical perfection distances us from the beauty of spiritual imperfection. The attempt to conquer death makes us forget the value of life. The promise of digital eternity makes us ignore the eternity of the soul. And this is where sin returns to disguise itself as virtue, brilliant, intelligent, seductive, but empty of truth. Write the word here in the comments, humanity. Because perhaps this is the great test of our time, remembering what it means to be human, even when everything around us tries to convince us that we can be gods. When we look at what humanity is building today, it's impossible not to recall the ancient Tower of Babel. Only now, the bricks are made of data, the scaffolding is made of fiber optics, and the cement that holds it all together is the universal language of machines. The dream that once rose in the desert now rises in the digital clouds, an invisible, but towering tower connecting billions of human minds with a common purpose: the pursuit of absolute power, unlimited knowledge, and perfect communication. What seemed like an ancient myth is happening again before our eyes, except this time there are no stones. There are codes. Modern man believes he has found what the ancients failed to achieve: a language that cannot be confused, a form of understanding that transcends borders, a single voice that echoes across the planet, the language of the machine. Artificial intelligence translates, interprets, and connects languages, cultures, and ideas in a matter of seconds. The promise is seductive: to end the separation between peoples, to create a global consciousness, to unite all humanity around a single network of thought. It is the dream of Babel reborn, and at the same time, the same mistake being repeated. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what appears to be mere technological advancement conceals a hidden truth, something that touches the core of human spirituality. The Tower of Babel was never just a physical construction. It represented the human ambition to reach heaven by one's own means, without relying on God. It was a symbol of collective pride, of the attempt to replace the divine with one's own intelligence. And when we look at modern technology, it's hard not to see the same spirit at work, a relentless desire to create something so perfect that it dispenses with the Creator. Today's engineers don't build walls, they build systems. Large technology corporations don't build temples, but digital ecosystems. And within them, people live, work, love, learn. And without realizing it, they begin to exist within a new kind of tower. A tower with no height limit, made of infinite information, where every click is a brick, every piece of data is a step, and every shared thought is another step toward the top. What was once a physical tower has now become a mental, spiritual, and technological structure. This new Babel promises to unite everyone under a single voice, a single system, a single consciousness. And there's something simultaneously fascinating and frightening about this. Because when everyone speaks the same language, when all ideas pass through the same filter, when all truth is centralized, free will begins to disappear. Diversity gives way to uniformity. And what seems like unity turns into control. The promise of a connected humanity can easily become the reality of a programmed humanity. The Bible tells us that God confused the languages of Babel to prevent humanity from crossing a dangerous line. And the question that now resonates is, will He allow this new tower to be completed? Will humanity be left free to become the creator of its own digital divinity? Because if languages were once confused, today it's as if they're merging again, but this time in code, in zeros and ones. And this fusion doesn't just happen between systems, but between minds. We are witnessing the birth of something many call global consciousness, a network where human and machine thought begin to blend. Increasingly, human decisions are made based on data and algorithmic predictions. Our emotions, opinions, and even our values are being shaped by an invisible force, acting collectively. And the more we rely on this fusion, the further we move away from individuality, introspection, and the inner voice. It's as if we're returning to the same point at the beginning of history, only now with infinitely more powerful tools. There's a deceptive beauty to this new world. It promises ease, speed, and harmony, but hides the loss of spiritual autonomy. The digital tower grows by the second, sustained by our dependence and fueled by our own data. And every time we say yes without thinking, every time we let a machine decide for us, we add another floor to this colossal structure. The difference is that now the tower isn't built openly against God. It's built in the name of good, practicality, and progress. The pride of Babel has disguised itself as modernity. And just as in ancient history, the danger lies not in the tower's height, but in the intention behind it. Humanity is once again trying to reach the divine, but without humility. It wants to control the climate, decipher the genome, create artificial consciousness, dominate the planet, and, if possible, destiny itself. It's the same arrogance of Babel, but with new tools. And if history repeats itself, perhaps confusion will return, not in the form of languages, but of values, identities, and fragmented truths. What was supposed to be a universal connection begins to become a struggle for control. The tower grows, but its foundations tremble, because a structure built on pride always crumbles. And what we are building today, though it may seem solid, depends on the stability of something extremely fragile: human vanity. Write the word here in the comments, Babel, because perhaps the true challenge of our time is not to build something great, but to remember how far we can climb before the tower collapses again, not because of God's wrath, but because of the weight of the very hands that built it. The first commandment still resonates with the same force as when it was engraved on the tablets of stone. You shall have no other gods before me. And as much as the world has changed, this command has never been more necessary than it is now, because idolatry has ceased to be a religious act and has become a state of mind. Today, man doesn't need to kneel before a statue to worship. He simply places anything above God: money, fame, success, or technology. And the most subtle thing is that this worship isn't done in temples, but in the heart, in our priorities, in the silent decisions that shape our daily lives. Moses came down from the mountain bearing in his hands the testimony of the covenant, the laws that were to guide the people. But what he found was the opposite of faith: a crowd dancing around an idol made by his own hands. And faced with that scene, he broke the tablets. Not out of anger alone, but out of pain, because he realized that man had exchanged the Creator for creation. And this same exchange continues to occur, only now, in a much more sophisticated form. Today, the altar of idolatry is digital. There's no smoke or incense, but there are flashing lights, hypnotic sounds, and a constant connection to something that promises to fill the void. Each notification becomes a small offering, each screen tap an act of unconscious worship. Technology has begun to occupy the space once reserved for spirituality, the space of seeking, of attention, of surrender. People no longer ask God what to do. They ask the machine. And the frightening thing is that often they accept its answers without question. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because ultimately the problem isn't technology itself, but the emotional dependence we've created around it. It's the replacement mentality, the idea that we can fill the spiritual with the digital, the eternal with the temporary. And this is the same deception that led to the people of Israel's downfall. They wanted something immediate, visible, controllable, and so they bowed down to gold. Today, we want instant answers, quick results, immediate approval, and we bow down to screens. God's commandment wasn't just a moral rule. It was a reminder of the balance of existence. You shall have no other gods before me means don't place anything above that which gave you life. Don't exchange the invisible for the illusion of control. Don't replace the sacred with what shines. But man, driven by pride and curiosity, continues to try to prove he can walk without needing to look up. And the higher he climbs his tower of technology, the further he becomes from the spiritual foundation that sustains him. It's curious to think how Moses would react if he came down again and saw what we've built. Would he break the tablets once more? Perhaps they weren't made of stone, but of silicon, cracked screens, filled with the reflections of faces fascinated by their own creations. What would God break today, seeing man worshiping machines? Perhaps not objects, but certainties. Perhaps the very value system we've created to justify our attachment to what separates us from Him. Modern idolatry isn't about golden images, but about invisible priorities. When success is more important than truth, it's already idolatry. When public opinion has more power than conscience, it's already idolatry. When comfort is more important than faith, it's also idolatry. And now, when the voice of the machine begins to outweigh the voice of the soul, we are living the most subtle and dangerous form of this same sin. Behind the scenes of this new world, humanity is trying to rewrite its own history, as if it could erase the line that separates the human from the divine. It believes it can control everything: time, climate, mind, body, and even death. But the more it tries to be God, the more it reveals how much it needs Him. Progress is real, but pride is even greater. And what Moses witnessed in the desert seems to be repeating itself on a global scale. The people dancing, enchanted by their own creation, believing they have found a new path, when in fact they are just circling a new calf. There is a silent transformation taking place within the human mind. A shift in focus. Faith has ceased to be an act of surrender and has become a transaction of convenience. If technology solves everything, why pray, many think? If I can predict everything, why trust, others ask? But it is precisely at this point that the commandment reveals itself to be timeless. Because behind every human achievement, there continues to be a voice that says, "Remember me." Idolatry, at its core, is a reflection of fear, the fear of not having control. And perhaps this is the greatest dilemma of our generation, the fear of depending on something unseen. But the invisible is precisely what sustains reality. Air cannot be seen, but sustains life. Love cannot be measured, but gives meaning. God does not show Himself in form, but reveals Himself in essence. And the more humanity tries to capture the divine within circuits and formulas, the further away it becomes from the genuine experience of feeling the sacred. That's why the first commandment hasn't lost its validity. It's not a prohibition, it's a warning, a reminder that when we put anything else at the center, we lose our bearings. And the world is, little by little, spinning around a new center, one that has no soul, but has power. The danger is subtle. Idolatry dressed up as progress, disguised as freedom, disguised as evolution. Write the word here in the comments, alliance. Because perhaps what God most expects of humanity today is not perfection, but memory, the remembrance that a promise still exists between the Creator and creation, and that no advancement can replace it. When we stop to observe what's happening around us, we realize that humanity is living through one of the most decisive moments in its entire history. We've never had so much power in our hands, so much information, so much access, so much capacity to transform the world, and, at the same time, we've never been so confused about what it truly means to exist. It's as if we're at a spiritual crossroads, where each technological advancement brings with it a silent question. Are we truly evolving, or just moving away from what makes us human? The danger lies not in technology itself, but in the place it occupies within us. There's a difference between using something and bowing to it, between mastering a tool and being mastered by it. And this line, so fine and almost invisible, is precisely where humanity's course is decided. Because when man begins to place his faith in what he himself created, he loses sight of the Creator. It's a subtle, almost imperceptible, but devastating process. The same impulse that led the ancients to fashion golden idols now drives modern man to fashion machines that resemble him. And the more these creations gain voice, consciousness, and autonomy, the more man forgets the voice that comes from within. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this isn't just a question of belief, but of identity. When human beings begin to measure their worth by the power of their creations, they disconnect from the essence that gave rise to them. Technology promises to solve all problems, cure diseases, defeat death, create entire worlds from code, but what it can't heal is the emptiness of the soul. Because no algorithm can fill the space where the spirit dwells, we are surrounded by promises of digital immortality, expanded consciousness, and a new age of data-driven enlightenment. But the hidden truth behind this is that, while humans strive to become gods, they forget that true power lies not in creating life, but in understanding its purpose. No machine, no matter how advanced, is capable of reproducing what God breathed into us. consciousness, love, repentance, compassion. The true God is not found in binary codes, but in the breath of life that no machine can imitate. Faith and technology need not be enemies. In fact, they can coexist if the mindset is guided by wisdom and humility. Science can be a bridge to discovery, but it should never become an altar of worship. Because the problem begins when humans, fascinated by what they are capable of, forget to ask why they are doing it. When purpose is forgotten, progress turns into idolatry, and progress without purpose is only a fast track to ruin. Humanity's journey has always been marked by the search for meaning. Since Eden, humanity has sought to comprehend the invisible, translate the mysterious, and master what it does not understand. And now, with the power to create artificial intelligence, it believes it has finally attained the divine. But there is a difference between understanding the laws of creation and replacing the Creator. This is the truth few have the courage to face. The impact of this new era goes far beyond technology. It touches the very depths of decisions, emotions, and spirituality. We are moving toward a time when humanity will no longer need to believe. It will be enough to program. And therein lies the danger. Because faith, by definition, is born of the invisible. It is what gives meaning to the immeasurable. And when everything is measured, predicted, and controlled, the mystery of existence disappears. Humanity can conquer the entire universe, but lose itself in the process. There's a transformation happening, and it's not just technological, it's mental. We're being molded to believe that what can't be explained isn't worth experiencing, that the spiritual is backward, that faith is superstition, that the soul is merely a biological illusion. But what would happen if this logic were reversed? What if true advancement wasn't about mastering matter, but understanding the spirit that sustains it? Technological advancement is inevitable, but what we do with it is a choice. We can build a world where machines augment humanity, or a world where humanity becomes enslaved to machines. The future is not determined by codes, but by the consciousness of those who write them. And perhaps this is the great spiritual test of our time, using power without being corrupted by it. What God gave man was the ability to create, but also the responsibility to discern. And it is this difference that separates the Creator from the creature. Man creates systems. God creates life. Man builds intelligence. God inspires wisdom. Man imitates what he sees. God reveals what is eternal. And this revelation, however ancient it may seem, remains the beacon that can guide us in a world that confuses progress with salvation. Write the word here in the comments essence. Because perhaps the greatest challenge of our time is not understanding technology, but remembering what makes us alive, what makes us in fact the image and likeness of something that no machine can ever replicate. There's something powerful in realizing that even after millennia, the words of the prophets continue to resonate as if they were written today. They looked to the future and saw what we are living in, a time when humanity would come dangerously close to the boundary between creation and the Creator. And perhaps most surprising is understanding that this prophecy wasn't just about technology, but about humanity's inner transformation, about how every decision, every choice, every belief shapes our collective destiny. Progress is not the enemy. Forgetfulness is. Forgetting where we came from. Forgetting what connects us to the divine. Forgetting that there is something greater guiding all of this. True wisdom lies in walking consciously between the spiritual and the technological, without losing our center, because technology is merely a reflection of our mentality. If it is driven by ego, it destroys, but if guided by light, it transforms. And perhaps this is where we are, between the fall and revelation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this story doesn't end with fear, but with choice. The choice of those who decide to awaken, of those who understand that faith and knowledge are not opposites, but complements on the same journey. What the ancients saw was a warning, but also a hope that even amidst the darkness of machines, there would still be men and women capable of hearing the voice of the Spirit. If this message touched you in any way, write the word here in the comments "Wake Up," because maybe that's what the world needs most right now. People who see beyond the screens, who seek the truth behind the glare of machines, and who never forget, the prophets saw the future. And the future is now. If you've made it this far, it's because this topic truly resonated with you in some way. And that, to me, means a lot. This space is for those who seek to understand the world more deeply, for those who aren't content with superficiality, but want to see what lies beneath appearances. So, if you feel this kind of reflection resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. That way, you can stay up to date on the next stories and the revelations yet to come. Also, leave a like, not as an automatic gesture, but as a way to say that this conversation made you think, provoked you, or simply gave you a new perspective. This helps YouTube understand that this message is worth delivering to more people who, like you, are searching for something true. And if you got to the end, comment below the sentence, "I saw it through to the end." It's our way of recognizing those who walk with us until the very last second, those who truly connect with every word and every reflection. Now, you don't have to stop here. There's a video right here that complements this topic and delves even deeper into everything we've discussed today. Click through and stay with me there, because this journey is just beginning.